Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Magicka 2. Obviously, Magicka, one of the more famous kind of crossover games from Paradox Interactive, the original game, was made by Arrowhead Studios, who you may know from, well, the original Magicka, also the Showdown Effect, also Gauntlet from last, September, and also Helldivers, which recently came out. But they parted ways with Paradox before Magicka 2, so this is developed in-house, I believe, by one of the in-house Paradox studios. It is a story-based sequel, I guess is the way I would describe it. A non-adversarial multiplayer-focused sequel, unlike Magicka Wizard Wars, which takes the Magicka formula and applies it to kind of like a multiplayer battle arena thing. It's $15 American, $17 Canadian. And before we get started, I should say, with full disclosure, or in the interest of full disclosure, I have been sent to many events by Paradox to preview Paradox games. Nothing related to Magicka 2, but certainly I have been at Paradox events in the past where they have paid for travel and lodgings for me to get there, and we'll be going to another one very shortly for Hearts of Iron 4. So if you are the kind of person who thinks that invalidates my opinion on Magicka 2, I have respect for that, and that is why I tell you and encourage you to go seek out a source elsewhere. But for now, let's play Magicka 2. I am somebody who did not spend more than a couple of hours with the original Magicka, but I have 40 or 50 in Wizard Wars. I really, really like Wizard Wars. So I'm coming at this from kind of the perspective of somebody who didn't really play Magicka 1. So some of the complaints that I've heard people having about Magicka 2 relative to Magicka 1 might fall on deaf ears for me a little bit here, but I've played about 5 hours of Magicka 2 so far. I'm not going to bury the lead. I have a overall positive, like a net positive opinion on it. A little bit mixed. I almost feel like I still prefer Wizard Wars for kind of like that wizard-on-wizard combat, but definitely it's still got that zany multiplayer aspect going along here. I find myself thinking that it's more solid than truly amazing, and I think some of that is due to the fact that I kind of feel like the Magicka formula, its novelty has worn off a little bit. Like, it's still cool that you can combine all these elements in various different ways, but it's a little bit, I'm not going to say stale, but it's gotten a little bit to the point where I'm over it. Like, it doesn't get a pass based on novelty anymore. We can play on a hard difficulty if we want to here. Surprise me seems funny, but you can see that we have, like, a variety of kind of like randomized challenge slots here. On hard, this is how they're affected. You know, enemies get health regeneration, and then there's friendly fire that is amplified, wizard health is lower, enemy health is higher, etc., etc. We can afford to do it on hard. I don't really want to join a public game, if this is at all possible. I would much rather perhaps just join a private game. This is the first time I've actually played it since it came out, so can I play offline? We have some empty slots. Oh, don't make me do this. I definitely don't want to quit the game. We'll continue, maybe? And it'll just pop us in here at a point where we're probably going to have some serious spoilers or something. I don't know. Bear with me here for just a moment. Okay, this is fine. This is just me, and it's relatively early as well. Alright, so let's explain what the heck is going on in Magicka, because it's going to be hard for me to talk about just what the heck is happening while I'm playing here. So if you're the person on Earth, one of the few people on Earth who is unfamiliar with what the heck Magicka is, basically, it's an action pseudo-role-playing game, but you don't really get experience. And the crux of the game are these runes down here, these elements. So basically, we have the ability to cast 5 elements at the same time. So let's use, like, Q, Q, F, F, D. So that's 2 water elements, 2 fire elements, and a rock. If we right-click, this will create like a water-fire rock, which will basically be like a rock imbued with steam damage. Or, if we, I don't know, let's try a middle-click. If I can get it to work. There we go. It dropped a rock with the water and the fire on it, on top of my head, so it did a little bit of damage to me, and now I've got the status effect of being wet, so I can self-cast some fire and get rid of that. We can also do new things in this game, like, for example, weapon enchantments. That is a shift right-click will allow us to enchant our weapon with a variety of elements. So we have, like, an ice sword here. If we wanted a steam sword, we could shift right-click, and now we have a steam sword. It's actually a pretty complicated game control-wise, but once you get over that early game learning curve, it's pretty easy. Basically, you got, like, beams and sprays, and then you also have, you know, shields that you can put on yourself, like this. Yeah, that one actually did work, but it doesn't look like it did. You can put a shield on yourself like that. So basically, you want to put a shield on yourself for whatever elements the enemies are going to hit you with, and then you want to hit them with whatever they're weak to. So we're actually coming up to a fairly difficult section here. My 5 hours or so with the game includes playing a lot of multiplayer. Arumba and I played a lot of multiplayer the day before release, and we played it on stream, so you can actually get like more of a kind of in-the-moment style feel for how I feel about the game. Oh, jeez. In that respect. We also have a variety of different magics that I can actually use here. They're mapped to my quick bar right now. So, for example, if I hit 2, I can cast haste on myself and actually be able to move a little bit faster. I think hard plus talking might be a little bit of a tall ask right now. I may die a few times in the process here. We can cast this garden magic, though, and it'll actually heal me up a little bit. You get 1 resurrection, and then you can cast resurrect and get a better chance to resurrect again in the future. I'm just going to emergency teleport here. What is resurrect again? Yeah, it's WA space. So you can cast those magics. They do have a cooldown, but you can cast those magics multiple times. And there are certain, like, special combos, like, you know, Dragon Strike, for example, which I just used right there. Allows me, oh geez, teleport out of the way, please. Allows me to just send down a huge wall of fire, and we can basically do the same thing with an ice wall as well. That's gonna knock me off the edge, and that may actually end my performance here very early. Okay, let's go back to the main menu, and that might have actually been on easy now that I think about it, but I want to just like do I want to do an earlier level so I can talk about it at the same time. Like create game, and maybe we'll make it like private here. We'll just put it on like chapter 2. And was there a private option I didn't see? Yeah, private session. Okay, there we go. Do chapter 2, we'll put it on normal, and we'll begin our game. So I want to give you a feel for how the game actually plays before I talk about how I feel about it in more depth, so it's actually a little bit more understandable. There's a little bit of dialogue. I don't know if they'll actually be able to hear the voice acting that well, or you'll be able to hear that well, but I'll let them talk. So as you can hear, the voice acting, it's done in that traditional, well, maybe not traditional, but it's done in that Magicka style, where it's like, please tell me they didn't nerf Healing Rock. Oh, you know what it is? It's because I've got this skull staff that it sucks really bad at healing, but it's really good at doing death damage. Anyway, they've got the silly kind of voice acting, which is like modified Swedish, modified Japanese, depending on who you're talking to. And the voice acting work is actually really funny. It's a funny game, you know. It's got a light cartoony tone, despite the fact that you are pretty much murdering people. Now, there is stuff like this. This isn't a game with like formal quests or side quests or anything like that. I kind of wish it did have a little bit more of these puzzle questy elements so that you could, you know, maybe get a piece of equipment from this. There are like light puzzles in the game, but like this guy's like, hey, I wish I could dry off, so we can like shoot him with a little bit of fire. We gotta get a little closer maybe. Shoot him with a little bit of fire, and then he dries off and he says, well, aren't you helpful? It would be kind of cool if we had the opportunity to you know, get a piece of equipment from him for doing that. I think it's maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity, but I understand that they want to focus on kind of like the walk right and kill all enemies. It's almost like this is a beat 'em up rather than an action RPG, which I think is actually a completely fair point, but also I think a completely fair criticism as well. Like this guy again is like, you know, trapped in the sand here. We could just burn his head off if we wanted to, but that's not going to be too good for business. Alright, so we have a particular loadout here that actually is god-awful for healing ourselves. So I got to be very careful about that. So I'm going to cast, like, some protective physical damage protection on myself. And then we can just figure out what these guys are weak to. And I'm going to feel bad about this. Enemies have a weakness, and I'm probably just going to exploit it because I already know it. But part of the game is experimenting or just, you know, thinking logically to see what that enemy weakness is actually going to be. So these guys are weak against steam and death. So we can actually make, like, a steam death laser, as Arumba calls it, and you know, get through things pretty quickly here. And in fact, pretty much everything is going to be weak to this for the time being. If we drop this, that's not really what I meant to do. It really is going to be tough to heal ourselves with this shitty staff. I wish I'd gone with a different loadout. This is a good staff if you have, like, a multiplayer posse, so you have some DPS. By the way, if you're wondering, why is this so slow? It's because I am a complete idiot and have decked myself out, again, with this staff that is not very functional, and thus I put on physical protection for myself and find myself now walking super slowly because that's the punishment you get for that. There is some really cool element interaction to the game, some super light, kind of almost superficial, but I don't mean that in a negative way, puzzling. There is some secret stuff that you can find by exploiting the environment with some of your elements. Like, for example, we can walk over this lake right here just by constantly freezing it down in front of us. And that brings me to another point. I actually think that the game looks pretty good. You know, Magicka has a particular kind of style and aesthetic, and I think this hews towards that. But look at the way, like, the ice is breaking off in the water there, or melting in the water. It looks really, really cool. Let's see if we can break this guy's shield. And also, the strongest thing about the game, that did not break his shield. Let's put, like, a rock on our sword, and then you do that. You can see if you have, like, full rock on your sword, it actually creates a situation. Oh, careful here. It actually creates a situation where it does kind of like a special attack. We can do the same thing, like we put like 5 fires on our weapon and then cast. We get like a nice little fire wave there that you can see, and some of them last longer than others. This allows you to do a decent amount of damage to your enemies as you come across them. I'm not sure why they're freezing. Maybe our sword has some like inherent cold damage. And really the fun part of the game, the most fun part of the game, is still that experimentation aspect. Still like you and your friends playing together and being like, oh, I accidentally, sorry man. You and your friends playing together and being like, sorry, I accidentally destroyed you, and like calling for reses and stuff like that, and being like, oh, Michael L. Fox, why don't you res me, etc., etc. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. That is still very much inherent in the Magicka experience. I've got to get some fire protection on myself, even fire absorption. This way the enemy can actually heal us with their flames, as you can see right there, because I've got full fire protection, which gives us actually fire absorption. You can also cast some really cool spells, like maybe like QR. Yeah, this does Highland Breeze, which is a magic that we can learn. As you can see, it really does a great job at freezing those enemies. And again, I think I showed off you know, Dragon Strike here, which is really effective as well. So it's kind of cool that there's like these overarching combos. They do have cooldowns associated with them to some extent, but another cool one is the interactions between the magics, or between the spells that you can cast. I shouldn't have died there, but we do have the resurrect abilities right now, so it's okay. And we'll just cast it again so that we get our familiar back, I think. Maybe not. Like, for example, give me a second here. For example, if I cast like R-A-S-E, and then like shift middle click, that's not what I meant to do. R-A-S-E, shift, wait. Takes a second here. R-A-S-E, shift right click, no, that enchants our weapon. See, the controls, they are a little bit complicated. That's not necessarily a criticism, because it's part of what, you know, makes the game fun, but it's like A-R-S-E, shift middle click. There it is, yeah, so we can set up like some sweet-ass, like ice lightning lasers and then teleport away with our emergency teleport ability. It's actually really effective. Like, it's going to be pretty good against these enemies, as you can see. We're not doing so hot against their melee damage. But we can do stuff like that, or just drop, like, some fire mines in front of us and then teleport away, or what are these guys weak to? Probably some kind of, like, arcane mines. So something like that will probably do a decent amount of damage to them. But I actually think they're setting it off with their fire early, so I should get my familiar back here for some extra resurrection potential. I do want to bring up a couple of complaints that I have about the game while this guy heals me, and I completely exploit the AI to actually get a little bit of a health bonus here. Hey, don't hit me like that. That's not fair. There is one problem with the game that I actually consider fairly serious, and it sort of boggles my mind. There must be some kind of technical problem with it, with implementing this. Otherwise, I can't imagine that you would just forget something that is, you know, relatively... Please, please, please. Don't do it! I'm gonna die again. But, it's a hard game to multitask, you know, to play and talk about at the same time. There is actually, and again, you're gonna think I've just missed it, but I'm pretty sure I have not. It's kind of mind-boggling. There's no key rebinding. This is a problem because a lot of the things in the game... Well, first off, you know, there should just be key rebinding in general in any game with kind of complicated controls like this. Let's throw some rocks at these guys to finally kill them. Like, there's complicated controls to make it a little bit more accessible and open it up to people. We automatically heal after that wave, by the way. To open it up to people who maybe, you know, are not skilled at using this, and you know, it's going to take them a long time to learn, I think would be a good idea. But more so, like, I have a mouse with a middle click button, but a lot of people probably don't. I don't know what happens if you're in that situation. Can you even play Magicka 2? Also, my middle click button is a little finicky. Like, I got to push on it pretty hard, so I probably won't be able to do it on cue here. But, like, I'm trying to show you that sometimes there, I clicked it once and it didn't work there. Again. I gotta kind of hold it down for a second to actually make it work. You're just gonna have to trust me that I'm doing this here. I have no reason to lie about this. So my middle mouse button's a little finicky. When I played Wizard Wars, I would always map the self-cast ability to spacebar, and I think a lot of people actually did that, and there's just no option to do it in Magicka 2, which I think is actually the biggest complaint against the game that I actually have, is the fact that you know, the inability to be able to map your keys actually makes this a little bit more inaccessible. I basically had to relearn the controls all over again. But if you're used to using the default key mapping, you're probably fine with it. I just wish that they did allow you to use the spacebar for it, but maybe it's because, you know, so many keys are spoken for. Like, the spacebar is also used to cast a big magic like this. So let's just do this. Other complaints that I have about the game, again, it's almost like a beat 'em up in that we're in this position now where, to some extent, I feel like the novelty of the Magicka formula has worn off. So it's kind of like playing like a modern beat 'em up where you're like, it's cool, but at the same time, it's pretty much the same thing over and over and over. Like, there's a little bit more variety because there's so much variety in the spellcasting that you can do. But, you know, you typically find yourself, and Arumba and I ran into this a lot, you know, it's kind of like what you see is what you get, or let me put it this way, you get what you give. trying to... Like, this is why, I mean, the key binding is such kind of an issue for me. Like, we're wet right now, and I'm trying to cast fire on myself, and it takes 2 or 3 tries, and if there's a lot of enemies on you, that can cause a problem. You know, it can make you weak to the other elements that they're casting out here. If you want to, you can probably get through the game without really using that many, or that much variety of spells. Like, for example... I can pretty much probably get through this entire level exclusively using Steam, maybe occasionally using Rock to break like the shields on those guys, as you can see. Almost every enemy has a weakness to Steam at this point. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, and we got a little bit more trickiness here, because this guy is hitting us with some fire, or hitting us with some ice instead of some fire. But really, if we just enchant like our weapon with Steam and then just shift right-click to go to town, we're probably going to be mostly fine. So that gets a little tougher, I think, as you raise the difficulty levels, and also as you have like more enemies show up, and you know, there's different kind of elemental advantages and disadvantages that they have. But at the same time, it's pretty easy to just survive like this, and yes, we're playing on the easiest difficulty, or I am playing on the easiest difficulty right now, but that difficulty is called normal. I think it's worth noting. Apart from that, though, the game it's paced pretty well. You know, it's a nice little game to jump into for hour or 2 hour long sessions, and I don't think that it's disappointing at all. His shield reflected my rock there. I actually know that worked, I should say, and that's what's cool about it, is that it's still got that joy of kind of figuring out how things work. Like, how do I get this guy? He's got a shield. Well, let's make him wet, and then maybe we can try freezing him. And when he freezes, no, that didn't work. Okay, what if I put, like, rock on my weapon? And then I attack him with it. That knocked him down, at least, and gave us an opportunity to hit him. But he is resisting there a little bit. But we made it work. That is still fun, and this is still a really fun game to play in multiplayer. Even with just the 2 of us, Arumba and myself, playing it, it was a good time. I had a good time playing it, and I also really like that there actually is almost like a class system in the game. I mean, there's not really a class system in the game, but there sort of is a class system in the game. I wonder if I can just, like, Dragon Strike this guy from super far away, and then see if he runs into... Yeah, that's probably going to murder him pretty easily there. I appreciate that. And then we can make ourselves, like, absorb fire. This is probably how you heal yourself if you're with a shit healing sword like I've got. You just cast, like, Dragon Strike and then full fire absorption runes and then just walk into it. That's actually a much more viable strategy, and that's what I was actually going to talk about. Is it's cool that there's almost like a class-based system, and there's some kind of customization. Like with the equipment you get, I think I can pause it here and maybe see my equipment. No, I can mouse over it maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. We can do that at the main menu. But right now, I've got a sword that is like this one. It does some cool damage, but is probably like, you know, weak for physical damage or something like that. This part is actually a little annoying with the music being a little loud, but maybe that's to some extent personal taste. I'm just gonna steamroll these guys with Steam and roll. Might be a little loud. It's okay. Just forgive it temporarily. So you can. There's also, of course, as you might expect, if you have a situation. Let me put full fire absorption on myself, and then try this, and then this, and then I'm probably gonna explode here and die, but I will respawn, and then I might be able to walk into this and be completely okay with it. But anyway, that's not what I meant to do. Try this. There's a little bit of, you know, like the Flood versus the Covenant moments here as well, as you can also see. You know, some of the enemies are aggro to each other and they fight each other, which is kind of cool. However, what I was gonna say is that it's cool that you can have like one person be full DPS. Like the staff that I have right now is definitely suited for being like a DPS character, because death does way more damage, that S element, and life is basically worthless at this point, which sounds more morose than I intended it to be. However, like our life element doesn't allow us to heal ourselves easily, so we're much better off. I think we might have killed everything. We're much better off being kind of like constantly healed by one of our teammates. Yeah, I think we just beat it. We're much better off being constantly healed by one of our teammates, and we'll just stand up at the front and deal damage. I like that you can get kind of a cool customized party setup for that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily expect. And it's an interesting way of taking the character customization from Magicka Wizard Wars and importing it into a single-player focused game. Well, not single-player focused, but campaign-focused game. It works pretty well. There is also controller support. I thought about using the game to play with, or using the controller to play with the game, but I've already put in the hours in Wizard Wars, so I'm like, I don't want to relearn the controls. So I'll show you the equipment menu really quickly here. Here's our stats as well, by the way. So we got 105 deaths. Selfies is when you drop a rock on your own face, I believe. There's the enemies we defeated, damage we've done. Number of times I killed a Roomba. Total healing. I've got some achievements there. If we go back here, there's also challenges that you can see in the game. I have not actually done any of these, so we should probably go for one. It seems the festival is under attack once more. How dare they interrupt your celebration? Don't they know that today is Interdependence Day? Let's give it a shot here, and we'll play on normal. I meant to, you know, we're going to go back and change our equipment soon, just so you can see that there's, or we're going to change our equipment now, just so you can see that there's different play styles here. I don't understand. I guess you get points for casting these spells, but I don't know what all of these spells are. Haste is ASF spacebar, but here, let's look at equipment. So I've got like 6 different types of robes unlocked here. Platypus robe is just a funny looking one. Astronomer robe is vulnerable to earth and ice, but great against fire, lightning, and cold. So why don't we try that one out? We've also got like a pyro one and a Feskar one, which is immune to water and steam, basically. Some of these I'm assuming are probably references. And then we have, you know, various skins for it. Let's go standard Fantasia blue here. And then staves, each one of these staves is either a superficial change or it has some kind of functional change. Like, for example, Little Chemist gives us a bonus to lightning, fire, and steam, but it slows our focus regeneration, which makes it harder to easily cast the magic, so we have to remember the combinations for them. So let's try that out. It could be fun. And for weapons, we've got pretty much the same thing. You know, if we have the yummy carrot, this is for like a support build. If you hit your friends with it, it actually heals them, which is kind of neat. So you can imbue your weapon with like a full healing charge and then hit your friend, and it'll heal them for a lot. But if you hit an enemy, it'll also heal them for a lot as well. But I don't know. Let's take the rune sword for medium physical damage, low death damage. So you can constantly respec, and some of those are going to be more viable than others, depending on whether you're playing by yourself or playing with other people. Let's try to do the festival here, and we'll select our familiar. Fairy revives you when you die. Pit Manager boosts elements at random and revives you. Boosts damage after kills and revives you. Yeah, let's try Murray. I've never actually experimented with using different familiars before, but what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of customizability. So there is, I think it's actually a little bit similar to Gauntlet, actually. It's not ASF? Sorry, what's haste? FSA? Oh, now I've done it. Well, we'll just try to kill the enemies. Try to self-cast some of these. When the enemies walk into it, we will teleport away, although I've just realized that I've forgotten what teleport actually is. So instead, we're going to die right off the bat, and then we're going to respawn, and I'm going to try not to avoid the temptation to just exclusively use Steam over and over. Oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure that these are actually the rewards that we'll get, maybe, for scoring highly. That's my assumption, at least. Okay, let's cast Revive here. It brings our familiar back, I think. I do think that this is a game that if you're a Magicka fan, but you weren't one of those people who was like, this is a game that I'm going to spend 100 hours on. If you were kind of like more of a casual Magicka fan, I think there's a lot to like here. Oh, we don't actually have Dragon Strike unlocked. Okay, I'm starting to understand that I'm completely ignorant of the challenge that we're actually facing here. Let's go around and just spray some of these early waves down, because, man, I'm getting my butt kicked. Go full steam here, basically, and these guys are going to be very, very easy, especially with the bonus that we get from our familiar. So these guys do physical damage. Let's cast physical wards on ourselves. Physical protection, I should say, on ourselves. It's going to make us very slow, but at the same time, we're going to be able to take out enemies very easily. If you're the kind of person who is really, really attached to the original mechanics of Magicka, or even Wizard Wars, then you might find yourself being a little bit, I don't want to say disappointed, but more so like, huh, you know, things have changed. I didn't want to create fire healing. Oh, you're still alive, aren't you? I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. Which is not to say that I think it's a bad game, but I think it's just a little, how am I even trying to come across with this? It's not a knockout success, in my opinion at least, but it is a fun diversion. And again, I can't really stress the beat-em-up comparison enough. I feel like this is really a game that is more similar to beat-em-ups, like old beat-em-ups, than any other genre, basically. So, you know, you lose a little bit there in depth, but at the same time, there's a lot to like as well. Especially, you know, the Magicka formula, while it might have grown a little bit less novel than it used to be, is still a really cool framework for multiplayer games. And I haven't even talked about it, but the multiplayer that oh man, they keep making us drop this. The multiplayer worked totally fine when Arumba and I were playing it. It was, I mean, we live pretty far away. He's in Florida, I'm in Vancouver. Yeah, it's on the same continent, but it's pretty distant apart from the rest of the continent, you know, or pretty distant, like diagonally speaking. It's across two of the biggest countries on Earth, the hypotenuse of them. So I don't have any concerns necessarily about the netcode. I don't think I'm gonna do too well here. And of course, you know, there's a lot to learn in Magicka as well. I think this is a game that you and your friends could have a really fun time playing. Is it worth 15 bucks? Honestly, yes. Like, if you compare this to a lot of the games that sell for 15 bucks on Steam, it's all there. Like, it ticks all the boxes. It's professionally made. It's got a lot of content. You know, the campaign on normal, once through, is probably going to take you at least 4 hours, but I'm thinking 6 is probably going to be a little bit more likely. And of course, there's more difficulties there if you're or more difficulty levels there if you're a little bit more experienced than I am. Of course, there's interactions between the elements, like that right there. Yeah, and the challenges, I don't know how much they actually add in terms of gameplay. Like, I'm not really that into this kind of horde-style stuff, but if you were playing multiplayer, it could be fun, and, you know, you can see some of the bosses here. And the campaign is reasonably fun. It's not to say it's the greatest campaign I've ever played. Again, like a lot of beat-em-ups, it is a little bit, it's a little bit samey, is the criticism that I would level against it, but it does pretty much succeed on the back of the fact that the Magicka formula, despite not being novel anymore, is still pretty darn cool. You know, it's much better than just hitting like X for a light attack and Y for a heavy attack. So I think I'm going to exit out of this challenge right here. Maybe for some people I can see this being a little bit of a disappointment relative to the first Magicka, but I can't really speak to that because I didn't play very much of the first Magicka. I found an interesting diversion. I don't think I'm going to put 10 hours in it. I don't think I'm going to put 20 hours into it. But I would love to finish the campaign with some more serious people. That's not an insult meant at a Roomba, just like, you know, some people that were into the game. And it's 15 bucks. I think there's a 4-pack available now as well, so you could, you know, talk to your friends if you actually have 4 people that are interested in getting into it. I can check that out right now, actually. But yeah, it's not necessarily a smash success or anything like that. I mean, the original Magicka, I do feel like it succeeded a lot because of its novelty and the fact that it was like, huh, why didn't anybody ever think of this before? This one is a little bit more like same old, but I don't mean that in a negative way. It is more Magicka, which is cool, and if you can get over some of the unevenness and the fact that it doesn't come with key bindings, which sort of blows me away, you can have a good time with it. But again, it is, to some extent, what you see, or you get what you give. If you're just going to spam the same spells over and over, you might find it kind of boring and repetitive. If you're willing to experiment a little bit and you're okay with failing to try to come up with new and cool combinations with your friends and synergies and stuff like that, I think you're going to get a little bit more mileage out of it. So you have to know what kind of player you are. It's certainly not a must-play game from my perspective, but it's pretty good. Is pretty much where I fall on it. And again, I think this is one of those things where single player, you're probably not going to have a fantastic experience with it unless you're really, really into that Magicka framework. But if you have friends to play it with, it's like, it reminds me a little bit of Battle Block Theater, you know? Just sit down with your friends, play through, you know, the 3 or 4 hour long campaign of Battle Block Theater, and then you're like, yeah, you know, that was a pretty good Saturday. For now, though, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. And, of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. Magicka 2 is available on Steam. There will be a link available in the video description below. These are the prices for Canada, so I'm assuming that for the US they're just about 20% lower. Magicka 2 is $17. The Deluxe Edition is $28. This is Canadian. The Deluxe Edition includes a digital interactive map, the soundtrack, some robe sets, so alternate skins, and the 4-pack is $54.99, so I'm assuming that's going to be like $45 American, but you can figure that out for yourself or whatever region you're located in. Thanks for watching again. If you enjoyed the episode, I appreciate the support, and I will see you next time.